Dear friends, recently in Vietnamese newspapers, there was a speech published by the President of Vietnam with the title, Vietnam-US relations have never developed as well as they do now. The entire content of the article will be forwarded to you. Dear friends, recently in Vietnamese newspapers, there was a speech published by the President of Vietnam with the title, Vietnam-US relations have never developed as well as they do now. The entire content of the article will be forwarded to you. President Vo Van Thuong assessed that Vietnam-US relations are constantly developing, becoming a model in international relations. When speaking in San Francisco, President Vo Van Thuong said that Vietnam identifies the U.S. as a strategically important partner in its foreign policy. When speaking during a policy exchange at the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations, CFR. In San Francisco, California on the morning of November 15, morning of November 16. Hanoi time. This is an activity of the President when he comes to the U.S. to attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC, 2023 Summit Week and combines bilateral activities. CFR is an independent research and consulting organization on U.S. foreign policy and international relations with the participation of many famous former politicians and researchers participating in in-depth analysis of international issues and foreign policy consultation. President Vo Van Thuong assessed that Vietnam-US relations have never developed as well as they do now, from former enemies to becoming comprehensive strategic partners, a model in the history of international relations of healing and building relationships after the war. Regarding the agreement to strengthen cooperation between Vietnam and the U.S. in developing semiconductor production, the President stated that Vietnam hopes that the joint declaration upgrading the Vietnam-US Comprehensive Strategic Partnership will be implemented fully, including the issue of cooperation in the production of semiconductors, chips and high-tech fields. However, to effectively solve this problem, the President suggested that the U.S. should pay attention to recognizing the market economy mechanism for Vietnam through political decisions, not rigidly following regulations. Along with that, the U.S. needs to soon remove Vietnam's ranking in the group of countries that limit support for cooperation in chips and semiconductors. Vietnam also wants the U.S. to support Vietnam in training high-quality human resources on this issue. In the joint statement upgrading the Vietnam-U.S. Comprehensive Strategic Partnership in September, General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong and President Joe Biden supported the rapid development of the semiconductor ecosystem in Vietnam, and the two sides will actively coordinate to enhance Vietnam's position in the global semiconductor supply chain. The two countries also announced the launch of human resource development initiatives in the semiconductor field, in which the U.S. government will provide an initial seeding grant worth $2 million, along with support from the government, Vietnam and the private sector in the future. According to the President, Vietnam is currently the 11th largest economy in Asia, one of the 40 largest economies in the world, in the group of 30 countries and territories with large international trade, and in the group of 3 countries attracting the largest foreign investment in ASEAN in nearly 10 years. As a member of 16 free trade agreements, Vietnam has become part of the global supply and production chain. Regarding the role of Vietnamese Americans in the process of promoting cooperation between the two countries, President Vo Van Thuong emphasized that Vietnam always considers Vietnamese people abroad, including overseas Vietnamese in the U.S., to be an indispensable part. Separation of the nation. He affirmed that overseas Vietnamese in the U.S. as well as Vietnamese people in other countries around the world have contributed to helping Vietnam achieve great and historically significant achievements. The President wants Vietnamese people in the U.S. to integrate well into the host community, increasingly asserting its position in American economic and social life. The President welcomed and hoped that Vietnamese people in the U.S. would often return to Vietnam to witness the country's realities and changes, affirming that Vietnam always welcomes Vietnamese American businesses to invest in Vietnam. The President emphasized that Vietnam has proactively implemented many measures to respond to climate change, but said that this is also an issue that needs support and help in terms of political determination and specific actions from the government. International community. The President hopes that the U.S. government will continue to pay attention and support Vietnam in this important field. CFR President Michael Froman emphasized the impressive development of Vietnam's economy, especially the growing role of Vietnam-U.S. economic cooperation when bilateral trade in goods increased to $139 billion, more than 300 times compared to 1995. Last year, Vietnam became the eighth largest trading partner of the U.S., appreciating Vietnam's role in the region. Mr. Froman said that economic initiatives in the region are also enhanced thanks to Vietnam's participation. According to Mr. Froman, the two countries upgraded their relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership, while strengthening cooperation in developing the semiconductor supply chain, infrastructure, digital, science and technology, preventing climate change, people-to-people exchanges, and overcoming the consequences of war are strong signals promoting bilateral relations. During his business trip to the U.S., the president plans to attend the APEC summit, dialogue between leaders of APEC members and the APEC Business Advisory Council (ABAC), and speak at the Business Summit. APEC CEO Summit. The president will also have bilateral meetings with leaders of APEC economies and international organizations. President Vo Van Thuan also plans to meet with U.S. leaders, attend a roundtable connecting businesses and localities on high technology and meet leaders of some leading U.S. companies and corporations. Our News on Global TV channel would like to pause here. If you find it interesting, please subscribe to the channel to follow us in the next video. See you soon.